Ahoy, and welcome. This is Admiral. Tiny video here, just looking at the short pre-order Viking DLC trailer that dropped earlier today. Pre-orders are now open with a discount, and we now have a release date of September 22nd. We also have a bit of new information about the regional unit availability. The Varangian Guard will of course be going to the Byzantines, as well as the Danes, Saxons, Varangians, and Vikings, all of which had people serving in the Varangian Guard, and part of why I continue to think that is a little bit of a silly name for a civilization. But I digress, and acknowledge that other civilization names are sometimes similarly silly. As expected and hoped for, mounted crossbowmen will be available to most European civilizations. And as many predicted, longships will be available to all of the new civilizations as well as the existing Viking civilization. Anyway, let's check out the video and I will comment in a few places.
To Scandinavia we return to is not the pagan world of old.
As the sun sets on the Viking world, one man picks up the shield and the axe.
So here we have a battle with a few of the new ranged units, which we'd seen before, the mounted crossbowman, Jarl, and the hearth troop that throws a javelin before closing into melee. Pretty cool. I think the hearth troop is my favorite of the unique units so far, not just in terms of aesthetics, but that does help, but also in terms of unique, yet hopefully simple gameplay function. I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of the Jarl, as it's literally a recycled editor unit that I find silly for a lot of the same reasons as the Mameluke. But I don't really hate it either. While it does feel a little bit like scraping the bottom of the barrel, I do prefer this to introducing weird new gimmicks, and a cavalry version of the Mameluke with a twist is a coherent, unique unit design. We've seen these little walkways before, which I really like, and the colorful rune stones are very cool.
He is Harald Hardrada, the lost Viking.
So this line is a little funny. Harald Hardrada is sometimes considered the last Viking king, since his death at Stamford Bridge is the closest thing we have to a clear endpoint of the Viking Age as a defining era, but people are still described as going Viking for at least a couple centuries afterward, although in a less massive and organized way. Someone at Forgotten Empires is really hung up on this idea of the last whatever, at least as a marketing convention, whether it be South American chieftains or Vikings, despite chieftains and Vikings persisting far beyond the individuals alluded to. Reports of their demise are greatly exaggerated. In a very loosely symbolic and approximate way, the label can fit Harald in retrospect, but the idea of him being announced with that foreknowledge as the last Viking during his lifetime is rather on the nose. Seems like they took a little cue from Nolan's Odyssey. Instead of our age of bronze is collapsing, it's our age of Viking is collapsing. Although if anything, I think the AoE 2 version is slightly more sensible. Not a huge deal for a game like this, I just thought it was funny and worth pointing out as a very pop history moment. Onward. So that's the trailer. I do generally like the direction they've gone with the music, where it has the expected horns and string-heavy melodies, and some mild martial vocals and light cinematic elements, but does seem semi-plausibly authentic, or at least reasonably inspired by authentic Scandinavian or Viking-era music, at least from what little I know about that, with none of the guttural, grimdark, or metal elements that are commonly branded as Viking in modern entertainment, but don't really have much, if anything, to do with historical Viking-era music. For people who are interested in attempts at modern interpretations that try to stay grounded in what little we do know about authentic Scandinavian styles, and that are very relevant to this DLC and its events, I'd recommend Ved Stanford Brua by Harold Foss, link in the description. So that's the trailer. Not a ton of new information, but it is nice to find out who gets the regional units, get a few more gameplay scenes, and have a release date. I gave my thematic critiques last time, and I do mostly stand by them, but there is plenty to like here, especially for Viking enjoyers. So those are my quick thoughts. Let me know what you think. That's all for today, and thanks for watching. This has been me telling a tiny tale of a timely teasing trailer. This has been me telling a tiny tale of a timely teasing trailer. Till next time.